Today on the Final Cut, we talk about basic color correction and grading and the difference between the two. Hello and welcome to The Final Cut, the DIY show that shows you how to apply Hollywood techniques to your no-budget project using exclusively Final Cut Pro X, Motion 5, and GarageBand. I'm your host, Twisty Ceives, and today we're delving into some basic color correction / grading inside of Final Cut Pro X. The first thing you need to know about color correction and color grading is that they're actually two completely different things. Many people often confuse the two, and I'm here to clear that mother-level confusion up. Color correction is the overall process of cleaning up your image and improving the overall quality of your footage. So for instance, take this shot. It doesn't look too bad, but if we go through with quick color correction, we have something that looks a little more like this, and already we can tell that this looks 10 times better. Color correction is just typically the process of creating a more smooth and even image, while color grading is entirely different. Color grading is where you actually begin to dial in that look. A great example of this would be our latest short film, Gone Home. The original footage looks like this, then we gave it a basic color correction, and then we gave it that finished look with our final grade. As you can clearly see, there's a very large difference between the original footage and the final look of the film. So just to recap, color correction is the basic process of cleaning up and improving the overall image quality of your footage, while color grading is the process of giving your film that final look, that final feel, that final cut. No, cut, it was a pun and you ruined it.
Sorry.
You ruined the pun.
Oh, it's just...
No. The second thing you need to know about color correction and color grading is that typically about 60% of your final look is determined by what you do in camera. So for instance, if you're going for a nice, smooth, even look, you're going to want to make sure that your exposure settings, your ISO, etc. aren't all jacked up on jacky things. You're also going to want to make sure that you're picking the right days to film. So for instance, if you're shooting day for night, you're going to want to make sure that you're shooting on a cloudy day rather than a sunny one, so it isn't like obvious that you try to fix everything in post. Because if that isn't the most annoying thing I've ever seen in a movie, then I don't know what it is. I don't know what is.
Andrew?
You do?
No.
Huh. Also, lighting is a big part of creating your finished look. So if you're shooting indoors, make sure that your lighting reflects the overall feel of your story. But with these things in mind, we can move forward with basic color correction inside Final Cut Pro X. After importing our footage into Final Cut Pro X, the first thing we're going to do is edit our overall scene together, and then we can begin correcting each individual shot by going to our color inspector, which is right next to our video inspector. Right off the bat, you'll see that we already have some options for levels, which is honestly what I use for pretty much all of my basic color correction. But if you go to where it says no corrections and click the drop-down menu, you'll see other options such as color wheels, color curves, and hue/saturation curves. Each of these things are going to do the same basic thing, it's just the method in which you're doing them is going to change, so it's kind of up to you. But jumping right in with levels, the first thing I'm going to do is go to my view options and click video scopes. This is immediately going to open up a graph that shows me where my colors are on a spectrum. So, starting with my shadows, I'm going to begin dragging these down so I can bring a little more definition to my shot. Doing the opposite by bringing these up is going to typically cause your footage to look gray and blown out. But by bringing them down, we're bringing an edge of detail that wasn't there before. Also, if you look at our video scopes, you'll see that the bottom of the color spectrum has been brought down to 0. This is because the shadows of the image are now darker. Then moving on to my highlights, I'm also going to bring these down a bit to under around 75. This is what I generally do when correcting my image because it typically helps to even out any overexposed areas. But honestly, it's all about what your footage is and what you're going for. Then moving to my midtones, I'm going to bring these up a bit, and as you can see on our color spectrum, it kind of spreads the color around, and by looking at our image, you'll see that brought some of the life back into the shot. I usually find that by lowering my shadows and highlights and raising my midtones, I get a very smooth, even look. But once again, this all depends on your footage and what you're going for. Then moving over to our saturation, I'm going to boost my shadows, highlights, and midtones just enough to bring some of that color back into the shot. I usually do this to create a bit more of a vibrant feel, but once again, this depends entirely on what you're going for. You know, for instance, if you're going for that horror movie feel, you can drag all of these down to get that dark gray feel. But again, that's all on you, my friend. That's all on you. Now that we've given this particular shot overall correction, we're going to repeat these steps until each of the following shots have been corrected to match each other. So for instance, take these two shots. As you can see, one is clearly darker than the other. So using levels, we're going to adjust both of these until they come pretty darn close to looking similar in terms of colors. Once again, color correction helps you to even out your scene so your shots don't look like they were just randomly thrown together. But now that we've finished our basic color correction, we're going to move on to our final grade by creating an adjustment layer above our entire scene. For those of you who don't have an adjustment layer option, Ryan Nangle has one for free that you can get, so I'll put a link to that in the description down below, along with an old tutorial I did on how to install said adjustment layer. But once we have our adjustment layer, we're going to select it, then go to our color inspector and begin to dial in our final look. There are a couple ways of going about this. My personal two favorites are color wheels and color curves, but honestly, you can just mess around to figure out what suits you best. With color wheels, you have 4 wheels, one for your masters, your shadows, your highlights, and your midtones. Basically, with each of these, you can just drag around your color values so that whatever area you're adjusting reflects that color. So for instance, if you drag the color value of our shadows up to the, I don't know, let's say orange area, the shadows of our image immediately reflect an oranger nature. So color wheels is just a great way to bring color into certain parts of your image. But if you scroll down, you can also find RGB options. So if there's a very specific color you're going for, you can just copy and paste the RGB code. With color curves though, you actually have the option to select actual colors from your image and adjust them in a similar way to levels. By clicking the eyedropper tool that's located above each individual graph, you can select the color from your clip and use the graph to add control points and make overall adjustments. Now, explaining this particular form of color grading is actually a little complicated, and honestly, all that can really be taught about it is how to push the buttons. There's no exact method to it. I literally just imported my footage, applied an adjustment layer, and went crazy. But you know, just so you know, the bottom left of the graph typically represents your shadows, while the top right typically represents your highlights, with the middle obviously representing your midtones. Obviously. I mean, that's duh. Common knowledge, people.
No, like, don't you know that?
Don't you?
No.
Now, the main thing you need to know about overall color correction / color grading is that there is no exact science to either. Everyone wants to say that there is, but honestly, it's all about your experience and your vision. Just like almost everything else when it comes to editing, you learn the rules so you can eventually break them. You learn how to push the buttons so you can learn new ways of pushing buttons, which makes absolutely no sense when I put it that way. There is no fast set of rules when it comes to color correction and color grading. It's mainly all about your vision of the project. Now, there are a few general rules when it comes to achieving a nice cinematic look, such as don't blow out your footage or don't make it ridiculously overpoweringly colorful. But then again, I've seen movies that have done this and it's worked great. So again, it's your ball game. It's your hoss. One last thing before I leave and go away by myself is a little tip from me to you. Typically, when I'm correcting my footage, I add an overall sharpening to my adjustment layer above all my footage. I usually take it up to about 5%, and a lot of the time, I find that this really helps give the footage an edge of definition. For instance, if you take this shot from Gone Home and zoom in on the trees, This is what it looks like before, and this is what it looks like after with a 5% sharpen. As you can clearly tell, this makes a huge difference and brings a lot of detail into the shot. I don't do this every time, but I definitely do it a lot. But again, it's completely up to you. Now to wrap this Mother 11 episode up, I shall bid you farewell. Just remember though that if there's an effect or something that you'd like to see done on the show, feel free to email me at twistceives@gmail.com or contact me on my Facebook or my Twitter. Links to that will all be in the description down below. So click it. But this is it. And I will see you next time when we discuss the mysteries of music and why it's so important. Yeah. Sorry.
Wearing his gardens. He looks so cool when you're doing that. Like in the superhero movies where, not when you do that. So good.
I'm dead.
You don't look dead.
Thank you. Wait, what about last week?
What about last week?
Aren't you a ghost?
What do you mean?
Like a ghost.
Like the ghost?
Like dead.
Like
ghost.
that I was dead last week?
Yeah, like afterlife ghost dead.
And I will see you next time when I hopefully get my body back, because I will be straight up honest. Being a ghost host just, it downright sucked. What are you talking about? I don't remember.
You shot yourself in the head.
I didn't shoot. Why would I do that?
I don't know.
Why would I shoot myself in the head?
Because you're an idiot.
I'm an idiot. I would shoot myself. How am I alive right now then? How?
I don't know.
Exactly. No, I'm not. No, I want this solved. What are you talking about? What? Wait. How many bananas did you have yesterday?
Okay. This isn't about the bananas.
You've been eating way too many.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yes.
with you.
Yes, you've been eating way too many bananas. You've been. You dreamed it all up.
No.
You have been eating way too many bananas. Okay, this is on you.
You know what?
This is on.
Next week, I'll show you the video.
This is on you. Okay? You have a problem.